Hello, I'm Rogue Link, and this is Demon's Crest Any Percent. Demon's Crest is the third game in the Gargoyles Quest series, although it's a fairly significant departure from the other two games. Instead of having a series of jump and wing strength upgrades, Firebrand instead has the same wing strength and same jump height over the course of the entire game. The jump height doesn't really come into play too much, but the wing strength is actually infinite, so you're able to fly over several stages, but the design takes that into account, obviously. Instead of collecting these upgrades, there's a variety of forms, vials, and scrolls which all have their own functionality. Since this is any percent, we're going to be collecting the bare minimum that we need in order to get from point A to the ending as fast as possible. Generally considered the worst ending for this game, fulfilling the absolute minimum requirements to open the final stage and kill only the first form of the final boss. Now, this is Somula. He's a fairly straightforward fight. One of the few differences between English and Japanese, the English boss not only has more health, but is actually much harder to position, so you can't just sit up in the air and time your attacks like I was able to just there. First stage, not too much to talk about here. Since we have infinite wing strength, there are a few stages in this category where we're able to just fly over the whole thing. It certainly puts a focus on boss RNG and boss fights throughout this entire category. Time for the first boss. We're going to go for a manipulation here for him to have a very particular pattern. Okay, it's not the best manipulation, but we can work with this. Hopefully he comes down. There we go. So that wasn't terrible. That was about an average fight for me. Now we're going to start our headbutt early before we can hit him because of the extra little bit of wind-up time. And that's one boss down. There we go. Not a bad start to the run. Here's the first time you're really going to see a lot of jump shots in order to maintain momentum. Jump shots are very important for maintaining your speed, because unlike the first two Gargoyles Quest games, in this game if you fire a shot in the air you just completely stop and lose all your speed, and you can't actually move at all. So it's very important to do jump shots in order to maintain your momentum and get through the stage as fast as possible. Here we're going for a trick called Ascent. We're going to kill this guy right here, and oh, unfortunately we got tagged. Our intent was to jump on this platform right here, cycle early. Fortunately, you don't actually lose time for missing the trick as long as you land on the platform that you're intended to ride up in the first place. Saves about half a second. This is Arma. He's another fairly RNG-heavy boss. Recently, the community actually realized sound cue and visual cue in order to manipulate this guy to get the behavior you want. Unfortunately, even when you hit him at the right time, it's still RNG for whether or not he does a short fall or a long fall. But one consistent bit of manipulation is if you walk under him, he drops lower to try to get to you. Here we go. So that was actually a decent fight. We had to do a little bit of manipulation to get him lower, but fortunately he didn't shoot too many orbs at us, which is a very slow attack. He was mostly dashing and stayed within range. The item we just collected there is the Earth Crest. That allows Firebrand to turn into Ground Gargoyle. Now, Ground Gargoyle is the fastest movement in this game. It allows us to do this dash attack right here. And a lot of the optimizing with this is knowing how far to dash and when to start to dash. because when traveling long distances or going the full length of the dash, it's very, very fast. But unfortunately, since it creates 3 Firebrand sprites on certain screens, it can be very laggy, so it's very important to know when's a good time to use it and exactly for how long. Especially with the charge up time. It's not exactly an instant ability. You have to sit still for just a little bit, so you need to make sure that the distance you're covering is worth it. We took a damage there, which is pretty unfortunate. Hopefully we can still get through this boss. Generally speaking, you need to be at full health, but there's a few safeties we can at least try. Right, and we're good. We got a pretty good pattern there. We didn't take very much damage at all. That scythe attack is one of the best for avoiding damage. Right, next up is the Wind Palace. The boss of the Wind Palace is one of the more challenging in this category. The Flyer Fight. This level's fairly straightforward, very vertical. Need to make sure to avoid these wall demons here. There we go. Went for a damage boost there. That was fairly well positioned. You want to make sure that you grab the wall in such a way that you damage boost into the wall and save a little bit of jumping time. Here we're actually in a windy room that pushes you forward, but only when you're in this form of Firebrand. Getting some health. Here we're going for an early shot to get 1 bit of extra damage. We got it, fortunately. And we want to switch to Ground Gargoyle here because the strongest attack that we can do is Ground Gargoyle's ground damage, the one that we were doing on Belf. That does 2 damage as opposed to 1. Ooh, unfortunately we fell off. Ooh, unfortunately we fell off again. We missed a few key hits there. But we were able to kill him. That was almost a pretty good fight, but we missed a few too many key shots while riding him in that second sequence. He gives us an ability, but we're not really going to be using that in any percent. Last up is Flame Lord. These first couple of levels are fairly straightforward. What we want to do is clip through these branches and fly over the top of the level. That prevents several bats from spawning, which can get in your way and definitely introduce lag. This segment's fairly similar, except we can't get high enough to prevent the bats from spawning, so we're going to have to kill them as we work our way through. The task actually has a pretty neat movement through this stage, where they stay as Ground Gargoyle for almost the entire thing. This section right here is actually one of the more important Ground Gargoyle stages. The entire stage is on fire, and you have to make sure to get very efficient and long dash jumps in order to prevent as much damage as possible. There's a decent bit of RNG here in terms of when large bits of fire fall down and whether or not the fire sprays from side to side, but otherwise it's fairly consistent. And here's Flame. Again, we're going to focus on the ground hits here. There we go. Getting some fairly bad patterns here. These slow-moving birds cause a lot of lag, and they're one of the worst things you can get. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Oh, unfortunately we missed the inside kill there. I was counting to 20 in order to be inside of the boss when we dealt the final bit of damage. But unfortunately we damage boosted in awkward directions, so we weren't able to get inside for that 20th hit. And one boss left, Phalanx. Switching to Tornado. Which I believe is the upgrade we got from Flame Ward. We're going to use Tornado in order to get on equal height with Phalanx, and then stay up there for as long as possible to get the kill. And we got him. 11:25, not a bad run at all. About 17 seconds off of my PB. And with the worst ending, what happens is Phalanx tries to use that particular crest, but since not all the crests are gathered, he's not able to pull it off. And now it's time for the worst ending. So, that was Demon's Crest 90%. Thank you for watching.